بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم وصلى الله على محمد وآله وسلم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر صدق الله العلي العظيم So in our Islamic tradition, we have universals and we have particulars. On the theological level, obviously, we have core theological concepts that apply in all times and places, like Tawheed, oneness of God, the afterlife that all human beings will experience, and the prophets, peace be upon all of them, come through history and teach us about how to return back to God in the best of states. And then in terms of our Muhammadan Islam, our being followers of Muhammad as opposed to followers of Musa and Harun, Moses and Aaron, peace be upon both of them in their time, followers of Isa ibn Maryam, Jesus, the son of Mary, followers of them in their time. We are followers of Muhammad, as we all know, and we have 4 practices that all people around the world understand as universals to Muslims. The 5 times prayer. You see a bunch of people lining up, bowing, standing, going down the ground. Everybody, oh, that's a Muslim doing Muslim stuff. Or if they're really ignorant, say that's an Islam doing Islam. Maybe heard people call them. You guys, the Islams? You know, so even people that don't even know the right terminology, the basic terminology, understand. Well, that's what Muslims do. They face towards Mecca. They bow, as we will do when we pray Salatul Jummah. The fast of the month of Ramadan, another well-known universal. But we also have particulars, right? These universals may apply to all peoples in all times, in all situations, with a few notable exceptions, according to Islamic law. But in terms of the particulars, that's where the rubber hits the road in terms of your life and in terms of my life, right? Islam is for doctors, it's for alims, ulama, it's for construction workers, it's for childcare providers, it's for all human beings, right? And in all different states. And so the reality is that we as human beings have to find our way to make those particular realities of our life part of our Islam, right? But those particular realities don't necessarily blare out, this is Islam, right? The way that the prayer, the fast does, right? So you say, well, I'm a Muslim and I pray and I fast. Okay, yeah. But then how is your work part of your Islam? It can or it cannot be, right? We have certain ways of thinking about it. For example, halal, haram, permissible or impermissible. So you have a halal work and it pays half as much as you could make if you were doing some sort of haram work. But you're fine with it because you're a servant of your Lord. And so you do that work as your part of your worship and your service to your Lord. And whatever that is whatever it is. Right? And we have terminology in our tradition to talk about these things. Fard Ayn versus Fard Kifaya. Fard Ayn being those things that everybody has to do. We all have to make the prayer. We all have to fast if we are physically capable of doing so. And so on and so forth. So those are the Fard Ayn. Right? But then the Fard Kifaya become the things that we all need. It's a recognition that we live in society. And right, so when we think about Oakland as a city of 450,000 people, it needs doctors, it needs engineers, it needs construction workers, it needs childcare providers, it needs so many different things, right? Of halal work or whatever endeavor you're doing to add to the life of the city to make sure that everyone has what it needs. If everyone was a doctor in the city of Oakland, it would be a sucky place to live. If everyone was ulama in the city of Oakland, it'd be a sucky place to live. If everyone was a construction worker in the city of Oakland, it'd be a sucky place to live, right? Because you don't need everybody to do one thing. Everybody's got to do different things. Everyone's got to find their purpose, what they were created to do and to contribute to Islam on earth, right? But unlike the universals, the particulars can sometimes become very easily secularized, right? And I use that term very sparingly, but it's what I mean by that in this particular khutbah is that we divorce our awareness of Allah from that thing that we're doing. So we just say, well, my Islam doesn't apply to this, right? So I have family from Karachi, Pakistan, and you know about Karachi, Pakistan. Home invasions have been a long problem in Karachi, Pakistan for many years. I don't know how it is now, but our families, had been, affected by home invasions. And so I'm talking about my wife's family specifically. And so these brothers come into the house with guns and they're wearing white shalwar kameez and topis, kufis on their head, right after Salatul Jummah once. And so it's clear that they've come from the masjid to the house to do a home invasion. So one of the uncles auntie started berating them. How could you do this? You just went to the masjid, make salah, and now you're invading my home? And he said, leave my religion out of this. This is the problem. This is the problem. When we leave my religion out of this, Allah doesn't care how I make my money. Allah doesn't care what I do in my free time. Allah doesn't care what I do in between the prayer. Right? They say, why is it that the verse of prayer that says that the prayer forbids from iniquities, how do we understand that? Well, at the very least, you understand it that when you're praying, you're not out doing something haram. Okay? When you're in the salah, you're probably not watching porn. You're probably not earning illegitimate money. You're probably not abusing somebody's rights, right? So at least it's affecting you in the moment that you're making salah. But then if you reach a higher level of taqwa, that is it radiates out from there. So that in the salah, you feel connected to Allah, you become aware of Allah. So then for the next 2, 3, 4, or 5 hours, you're not going to go out and abuse somebody's rights in order to get something you want, right? You're not going to let your own materialistic desires, whether that's for sex, money, or power, to allow you to make somebody else suffer so that you can get what you want. You're going to think about how Allah is watching you at every single moment, and you are going to have it affect these other parts of your life. So this reality is encapsulated in a hadith of our tradition that's narrated in both Sunni and Shiite books. I won't give you the Arabic because there's various narrations, but the basic meaning of which is, the most beloved actions by which my servant draws near to me are the obligations, what we call fara'id or wajibat, such as the prayer or fasting and so on and so forth. But my servant continues to draw near to me with recommended actions until I love him or her. If you're someone, mashallah, who never misses a fard salah, how much time of that is out of your day? 25 minutes? You probably have all the 2 rakas of Fajr, 4 of Dhuhr, 4 of Asr, 3 of Maghrib, and 4 of Isha. 25 minutes. So what are you doing with the other 2 hours and 23 hours and 35 minutes? Well, that's the realm of the mustahabat, the recommended action. Right? So maybe I add a couple of mustahab prayers before and after those Fara'id prayers. Okay, so now I got up to 40 minutes a day I'm doing mustahabat. Okay, now I got married to someone that's lawful for me to marry, and I treat them right. And so every hour I spend in service of that person who I'm married to, then that is ibadah. That is worship. That is a recommended action. I know in Islam it's recommended to get married. It's not absolutely wajib that you get married. Right? So, but you turn that marriage, and whether it's going to the grocery store or making love, it's something that is actually, if you do it right, is worship in our religion, which is a beautiful thing. And so you compound all these minutes and hours of the day in a way that turns them into beloved things to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah doesn't want us to live like monks the way that perhaps many Christians or many Hindus or many Buddhists think is the path to Allah. There's the path to sanctity, there's the path to wilayah. There's sainthood, if you will. No, in Islam, that path has our work as a part of it, our marriage, our relationship with our parents, our relationship with our children, the way we handle our money, the way we treat people on the street, the way we treat strangers. All these aspects of our lives are part of the teachings of Islam. And so when Allah is talking about these mustahabat, these recommended actions that will draw you closer and closer to Allah, and Allah loves you, and in that hadith it goes on to elaborate on what he means by love in this particular instance, it's kind of spiritual love, is that all these things can be encompassed through our intention and through our awareness that we are doing things in conformity with the Sharia of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Imam Rashid, who's not here this week, asked me to fill in, and he wanted me to talk about khayr, goodness, in our Islamic lexicon, or sort of way of thinking about the world as we express through language in Islam, primarily then through the Arabic language and through other languages that are influenced by Arabic, the way that even English is now influenced by Arabic. And so, I don't need to say, hey, Assalamu alaikum, bro, how's your taqwa? Like, that's an understood thing. Taqwa was not an understood word in the English language before as, a meaningful phrase. That's an unintelligible phrase to an average English speaker. If you're Muslim and you're socializing in the Muslim community, you understand Iman, Taqwa, Assalamu alaikum, so on and so forth, right? So we have this lexicon. So this word khayr, meaning goodness, is related to the concept of istikhara, which many of you are probably familiar with. So I'm going to talk about istikhara for the rest of the khutbah. Istikhara literally means seeking out the good. It's from the 10th form of the Arabic language, istakhala, and in that form means seeking something. So the word khayr is inserted into that form, means seeking the good. But in a technical sense, in our Islamic tradition, istikhara is a tool that the Prophet ﷺ gave us to seek that good. Right? It has nothing to do with the universals, for those of you who weren't here. It has nothing to do with prayer and fasting and staying away from alcohol and so on and so forth. Those are just known, you got to do it, figure out how to do it. Istikhara is about how you deal with the things you're unsure about, right? So if you make your prayer, you fast the month of Ramadan, you still got 23 hours in the day, what am I going to do with my time? You're trying to figure out how do I make the best of it, right? Best life ever, as they say these days. So it's in the Sunni and the Shi'i tradition about how to do istikhara. In the Sunni tradition, it's usually, and I've studied both, in the Sunni tradition, it's primarily presented as a 2 rak'ah nafil prayer, extra prayer, that then you say a particular dua afterwards. In the Shi'i tradition, that also exists. It's recommended to make the 2 rak'ah nafil prayer and then do a specific dua. But there are also many other forms of it. If you're interested in those different forms of the istikhara, you can read this book, Istikhara, Seeking the Best from Allah. So istikhara is spelled I-S-T-I-K-H-A-R-A. Istikhara, Seeking the Best from Allah, and the translator is Salim, S-A-L-E-E-M, Binji, B-H-I-M-J-I, is a very prolific scholar from Canada who translated many books. So this explains istikhara, all the different forms of istikhara in the Shia tradition. But I'll begin with talking a little bit about the Sunni tradition. In the Sunni tradition, the recommended form of istikhara is that you make this 2 rak'ah nafil prayer, this extra prayer. So of course that is part of the mustahabat, part of the extras. So just by doing the 2 rak'ah prayer, you're beginning to go on the path of filling up all that extra time with that which is best. And then you make a specific dua. Allahumma inni astakhiruka bi'ilmin. Oh Allah, I seek the good from your knowledge, right? Because Allah is the one who is knowledgeable of all things. And I seek power through your power. For you have power and I don't have power. You have knowledge and I don't have knowledge. And you know everything, every detail about that which is hidden and mysterious and unseen. Right? So, Allah, if this affair that I'm about to consider, whether I should do it, should I not do it, should I get involved with it, should I not get involved with it? If it's good for me, in my religion, and in my worldly life, and in my eternal reality, then please decree it for me and make it easy for me, and then bless me in it. But if you know that this thing that I'm now thinking about, contemplating, wondering what to do about it, is bad for me in my religion, and in my worldly life, and in my eternal hereafter, then keep me far from it and keep it far from me, and decree for me something that is good elsewhere, and make me content with that. That's the meaning of that dua. And so you can see in this dua is a reflection of the reality of our existence. That we think we have power, but we don't really have power. We think we have knowledge, but we don't really have knowledge. Everyone in this room and everyone on this planet Earth, no matter how at the height of their powers they were once a little baby who was helpless in their mother's arms. Couldn't speak, couldn't make a decision for themselves, couldn't keep themselves fed, absolutely 100% helpless. And every single one in this room and every single one on this planet Earth will die and will meet the giver of death, decrees that we're going to die. And you can be the king of the world, you can be the billionaire of all billionaires, and you're going to die just as much as the person who was lost to history. And so when Allah is alamul ghuyub, when Allah is the knower of all things, seen and unseen, we're turning to the one who can find the good for us wherever it may be found, in things expected and things unexpected, right? Because the good might not actually be something that's pleasant. And that's something that, for example, if you read this book and the advice of ulama, they make very clear. When you're asking Allah for the good, you're not asking Allah for everything to be super easy and pleasant. You're asking for that which is good for your soul in the end analysis. Yes, we all want money. Yes, we all want love. Yes, we all want security. Yes, we all want honor. Yes, we all want dignity. But it can be said again and again and again. You can be the grandson of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they'll chop your head off, carry it to Damascus, and say this is in the name of Islam. So if that's the reality of the worldly situation, that's the reality of being part of the Ummah of Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then the reality is sometimes it's not going to be all nice and pleasant. Sometimes the good is not going to come with the great job, the great spouse, the great house, the great this, the great that. Sometimes the good is going to be very, very difficult. And so this dua that you're asking for is not something that is necessarily going to get you what we often called in like people study the academic study of religion, the prosperity gospel, right? That if you give this to God, God's going to make you a millionaire. If you give this to God, God's going to give you a beautiful house, right? That's not the Islamic tradition, right? In actuality, we have something in our tradition called istidraj, where Allah may actually give more and more and more to an oppressor just so that their punishment becomes more and more and more in the hereafter. Right? That's part of looking at the world through the eyes of Allah, looking at the world through the eyes of Islamic theology, looking at the world through the eyes of Islamic mysticism. That why would someone who is so evil end his life, peacefully in bed, surrounded by his army, surrounded by his wealth? Because there's nothing left for him in this world. In the next world, it's just going to be punishment upon punishment upon punishment. And that's what we're trying to avoid, every single one of us. Because no matter how much you have, no matter how much you have power over, Allah is going to ask you about it. What'd you do with your hands? What'd you do with your eyes? What'd you do with your feet? What'd you do with your tongue? What'd you do with your stomach? What'd you do with your genitals? What did you do with what I gave you to interact with this world? Did you use it for me? Because I gave it to you in the first place. Or did you use it for your nafs? Did you use it for your selfish soul and think that I'm the one who did this? Right? The story of Korah, Harun in the Quran. He thinks that he's the one who got himself wealth, and he forgets about Allah, even though everyone's trying to remind him, no, you got this from Allah. And he's like, nah, I got this because I worked hard. I got this because I'm smart. I got this because I hustled. I got this because I played the game right. You can't hate on me because I got this and you didn't. Okay? That person who has that mentality, whether it's like a street side hustler or whether it's Elon Musk, doesn't matter how far you are in the hierarchy of wealth and power in this planet Earth, it's the same reality. It's the same truth staring you in the face. This person is engaged in an act of pure kufr, of covering over the reality of their whole existence. They didn't bring themselves into existence. They didn't nourish themselves. They didn't give themselves an intellect by which to be able to, add and subtract, let alone do other things. Allah gave them every single one of those things. And that's what the Quran, and that's what the Prophet, and that's what the Ahlul Bayt are trying to tell us over and over and over again. You didn't give yourself these things. Allah gave you these things. And so use them in the service of Allah. Surrender them to Allah. Turn them back to Allah. And if you can't figure it out, at least pray, at least fast, at least stay away from what I declared to be haram. And then maybe one day you'll figure it out and you'll start making istikhara and you'll start asking, oh Allah, how can my life be the best that it can be? How can I fill it with that which is the best? So that after the salah, I'm ready for the morning to do the best. After Dhuhr, I'm ready for the afternoon to do the best. After Asr, I'm ready for the late afternoon to do the best. After Maghrib, I'm ready for the evening to do the best, and so on and so forth. And now that's a lofty reality. That's not something that I can claim that I've figured out. But at least I'm trying, right? And these moments for me are, when I'm asked to do the Jummah Khutbah, are moments for me to remind myself about what I really believe. And to be honest, sometimes I actually preach to myself like this in private. That's kind of weird, so we don't talk about it. So, but the reality is that, what is the original sin in Islam? It's when Allah asked Shaitan, why didn't you obey me? It said, prostrate to Adam. Why didn't you obey me? Was the first thing he said in the Quran? And I'm better than him. I'm better than him. You imagine, just try to imagine from a theological perspective, you're Allah. Who are you? You're nothing. I made you. Jinn, angel, human, whatever else in the reality, I made you. I gave you everything. And now you have the audacity to stand before me, the Lord of heavens and earth, and say, I'm better than him? On what basis? That you used every single thing that I gave you, maybe marginally better than he did? Because that's really the only claim you can make, right? That I use my hands a little bit better than this other decent person that I spend my time with. My friends, my teachers, my parents, other good people that I know that come to mind when I say these words. Okay, so you used your hand a little bit better than them. Is that a reason to boast? I use my eyes a little bit better than them. I use my money a little bit better than them. I use my feet a little bit better than them. And that gives you the audacity to claim, Ana khayrun min, I am better than him? That's messed up. That's messed up. That's a complete misrecognition of the reality of existence. And that's what kufr means, to cover over the reality of our own existence. Because buildings don't go to heaven or hell. Institutions don't go to heaven or hell. Systems don't go to heaven or hell. Cars and trucks and planes and boats and apartments and Capitol buildings and statues don't go to heaven or hell. Individual human beings in history go to heaven or hell. Each one of us, Bani Adam, created by al-Musawwir, shaped and fashioned to be male or female, white or black, American, non-Americans, whatever else we use to describe ourselves. Right? Al-Musawwir is the one who fashioned us. They look at it all your faces. That's all. Al-Musawwir gave you your face. Gave me my face. Alhamdulillah. And we have to keep that reality in mind every single day. And that's why we have these kind of moments. And wallahi, I'm the kind of person that read a book or watch a video like this morning. Allah, that's so true. And then 2 hours later, I'll be caught up in some stupid thing, like my kids, why'd you do that? Hold on. Wasn't I flying on cloud 9 2 hours ago when I was watching that sheikh and I was like, awesome. And now I'm with my children, it just, that's who we are as human beings. We need reminders. And what makes us different from Shaitan is if we ever have the audacity to say, Ana khayrun min, I'm better than him, we'll either have something inside of our heart, like our own aql, to correct us. We'll have a prophet or imam or wali or some great figure to remind us through their words or through their example. Or maybe it's just our brothers and sisters in Islam, or maybe it's even not our brothers and sisters in Islam, but just someone else who understands some fundamental moral and spiritual truth, even though they don't identify as Muslim, to remind us of what the truth is. So we say, astaghfirullah, I can't believe I even thought that. Can't believe I even thought that. Right? And we get back to work. We get back to work. So what istikhara is reminding us that Allah has power and we do not. Allah has knowledge and we do not. And each and every single one of us, multiple points of the day, is going through a process of trying to figure out what that good is, how to get that claim, how, whether that's spiritual or material or both. And I'll say this, I was 15 years, Sunni, and 10 years on the path of the Ahlul Bayt. I think in the Sunni tradition, generally it was taught to me that istikhara was something you do kind of like in important moments. Do I take this job offer or not? Do I marry this person or not? These moments when you have this like little doubt, I'm not sure. In the Shia tradition, it's much more common. It's like more like an everyday thing, right? So in this particular book, it has a narration from Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq, alayhi salam, the sixth Shia Imam, but also well respected amongst the Sunnis as a great scholar. It says, in the case of an important action, recite astaghfirullah. Just simply, we say alhamdulillah. All praise is due for Allah. Astaghfirullah, so you can hear it, astaghfir, like it sounds like istikhara. Astaghfir, I am seeking the good from Allah. Astaghfirullah. So astaghfirullah, recite that 10 times for anything small. You just like, I feel like I need to seek the best from Allah. I don't know, like you and your friends are standing out in front of like Maya's Halal, and you're like, should we go to Maya's Halal? Or should we go to like that halal cheeseburger place that's like over there somewhere? Turn it around. You know what I'm talking about, so halal cheeseburger spot around the corner. Where should we go? And you're sitting there and you're like, astaghfirullah, 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 astaghfirullah. 10 times. Very simple, right? It's not a big deal, right? But you're having a moment. What's the benefit of that? You're turning to Allah for the benefit, right? You're turning to Allah for the good. So that God forbid, you go into one of those places and something goes down, you're like, well, khair inshallah, as people say. It's like, I don't know how you're familiar with that phrase, but people say khair inshallah, good if God wills. It's a way to kind of like, okay, it is what it is. Khair inshallah. So the earthquake yesterday, khair inshallah. There's going to be a tsunami, khair inshallah. What's the hills? So that's like if you have a small manner, but if you have a big manner, it says on a bigger issue, say it 101 times. So like most tasbihs, right, are 99, 33, 33, 33. So you do the whole tasbih plus 2 more. Or you can do it with your hands, you do 10. When I were trying to count 100, I just do like this is the 10, and this is like 110, 210, 310, 410, 510, 610. It's 100. Easy way to count. So point is that if you don't want that whole long dua that is in the Sunni tradition that I was reciting earlier, you don't want to memorize something like that. Of course, you can read it out of a book, as many people would do. There are many books that have that available. And it's also obviously available online. If you want to memorize something along like that, just astaghfirullah, right? 10 times or 101 times as a way to turn to Allah in those moments where you feel some lack of certainty, right? It's not about being like an indecisive person or something like that. It's about having these moments where you're like, well, I don't really know, like what's the best? Is this really going to be good for me? And I know I'm going to do it, but I say the istikhara because then there's blessing in that. And as this book, for example, talks about, that like I will know that there's good in it, even if it's difficult. Even if something unexpected happens along the way, I was somebody who wanted, when I came out of undergraduate, let's give you a personal example. and this first book. But when I came out of undergraduate, 2001, my 100% dream was supposed to be the winter of 2001 before I graduated. My 100% dream was to go to Jamia Abu Nur in Damascus, Syria to study Islam in a 3-year program. And I tried to convince my parents to let me go. And for only the second time in their life, after like a lot of back and forth, they forbade me from going. And I had this moment where I was like, well, do I or do I not obey them? Because I could just go on my own. But then I was like, well, Islam says that you should like listen to what your parents say. And I guess this isn't something that is the universal. It's not something I have to do. Like, it's not something wajib on me to do. So I guess I'm weighing these things, and obedience to my parents in this particular situation seems like it's wajib, whereas like going to Damascus to study Islam seems like mustahab, like a recommended thing. So I'll take the higher thing over the lower thing. Wallahi, it took me 7 years until I first visited Damascus to really kind of get over that experience of just like submitting my own desire, even though it's something that Islam would say is good, to what my parents wanted. So then I go to graduate school. I'm like, oh, I'll just like go to the best graduate school I can get into. So I got into Princeton, mashallah, and it's in Islamic studies, one of the top programs in the country. And I had this attitude like I'm just gonna like go through the program and do a good job. And unlike any other time in my life, these like unexpected roadblocks came up and made it impossible for me, in good conscience, to finish with the PhD, but just get the master's. Right, so just get the master's and then go and do something else. And that's how I ended up as a Muslim chaplain at different universities. And wallahi, I don't think I was ever over that until this like last week. And I had this experience where I felt like for the first time in my life, I could see how Allah had planned out things in a way that I never could have planned out. And that when I was denied that PhD, when Allah manifested as a mania, the preventer, would block something, I accepted it because like I was trying to follow my conscience. I was trying to find the good. I could have just gone through the program and just suffered and just said, well, the PhD matters more than anything else. And I just got to do it because that's what's prestigious, Princeton. But I didn't. But I still felt that. My friends went on to go out and like become tenured professors at big school. And oh, look, their book came out, and yeah, everyone's reading it in the Muslim community. Like, okay, like, well, I didn't, because it didn't work out for me that way. There was a little bit of like jealousy there, not that I like hasad, like in the sense of like I want them to be, taken down a notch or something like that. But ghibta, that kind of like, I wish I had that too. It'd be nice to be like, oh, Dr. David Coolidge, mashallah, and so you have these things. This is, I'm just giving you as a personal example in my life. You have these things that you really think that they're going to be the thing that Allah wants for you, and and even if they're good, like studying Islam, like getting a degree, getting dignity, getting honor, getting prestige, getting access, getting networks, getting possibilities, and then Allah manifests as Al-Mani and He closes the door, and you're like, what the heck? Like, I thought Islam was supposed to make my life better. And that's what we gotta work on. We gotta work on the ways in which we see the way that Allah is carrying us through this life and carrying us on a journey. Yes, we're all gonna pray. Yes, we're all gonna fast. Yes, we're all gonna stay with the Quran. We're gonna do these universals. But the big part of the journey is for each and every single one of us to find those particulars that Allah created us for, right? And made every single one of us unique. See, nobody here is the same, as far as I can tell. Every one of you is different, right? And so what is going to be the way that you manifest your seeking of the good, recognizing that all that good comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم وصلى الله على محمد وآله وسلم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. So just to reiterate, istikhara means seeking the good. We have these forms in the Sunni and the Shia tradition, both of which are good, both of which there's khayr in, to express our need for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to guide us towards that good out of the recognition that Allah knows best, that which is best for us. But deeper than all of that is the idea that Allah wants the good for us. I was listening to a lecture this morning, a person I consider a great sheikh, and he said, imagine you're a little kid, and the biggest thing that you fear is bullies your own age. So you walk with your father, holding your hand, and you know no one's going to mess with you. Your father is by your side. He said, now, if we can be people like that who feel like Allah is holding our hand, we'll never be afraid of anything. We'll never be afraid of anything. We gave an example of someone who we felt had achieved that particular station. And he said, why? Because Allah loves us so much. And he said, we were to take the love of all mothers in the world for all of their children in all of human history, in order to combine it together, it would be but a drop in the infinite ocean of Allah's love. Al-Wudu, source of all love. And so istikhara, beyond the kind of particulars of our lives and our making sense out of how we're going to go, on our day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, and year-to-year journeys, at the deepest level, it is a calling out to our mother. It's a calling out to our father. It's a calling out to the source of our existence. Hold me by the hand. Take me. Protect me. Never let me go. Protect me from all harm. Give me the good. Give me the best things, Ya Abba. Give me the best Eid presents. All the things that I hope for. All the joy and the happiness that I know is possible. And I felt it at little moments of my life. And you promised to me in a world beyond this world of sadness and injustice. Help me. Help me. Because I am faqirun ilayk. I am impoverished before you. And you are al-Ghani. You are the one who is self-sufficient and not in need of anything. And al-Hamid, the one who is praiseworthy. Ya ayyuhan nas antumul fuqara'u ila Allah wallahu huwal Hamid. As the Quran says. In the Dua Kumail, there's this line, Idfir liman la yamliku illa dua. Have mercy on the one who has nothing except my prayer. And why is dua so important in our tradition? Whether you say it in English, whether you say it in Spanish, whether you say it in Farsi, whether you say it in Urdu, whether you say it in Burmese, whatever language you say it in, and whether you say it in Arabic according to the forms of the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt and the Awliya, that this dua is where you're talking to your Lord, where you're communicating with your beloved, where you're communicating with your protector, when you're beseeching the one who has all the things that you hope for in this world and the next in his control. Right? And so dua becomes one of the most beautiful expressions of our understanding of Tawheed, of the oneness of Allah, and beautiful expressions of our ubudiyya, our state of servanthood to Allah. And so I hope that in these short moments that I've given you something that will be a benefit to you in the coming week, for the next Jummah, in the coming year, or let's say in the coming months before Shahr Ramadan, the month of Ramadan. Or Allah has instituted a system whereby we are constantly able to turn back, right? Just as human beings are constantly filing their way to Mecca, whirling around the Kaaba, the sort of physical metaphor of our internal spiritual turning to Allah is at-Tawwab, the one who's constantly turning to us. And if we come walking to Allah, Allah comes running to us. So Jummah is that, Shahr Ramadan is that, Hajj Umrah is that, and all these other ways in which Allah has instituted a system for us, a spiritual system, whereby we can be reminded. You can remind me, I can remind you. Tawasaw bil-haqq wa tawasaw bis-sabr. And inshallah, with Allah's grace, with Allah's mercy, and Allah's love, we can find our way home forever. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. Our Lord, give us good in this world and good in the hereafter, and save us from the punishment of fire. ربنا إننا آمنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وقنا عذاب النار. Ya Allah, our Lord, we have believed. In this moment, we have come to this place for your sake, Ya Allah, as a manifestation through our bodies of La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. So, Ya Allah, in this place, in this time, this place that you have called us to, through the example of your beloved Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, please bestow upon us that mercy, that khair, that goodness that we are seeking in every moment of our life. We're seeking from other people, people of wealth, people of power, people of influence, whatever they may be, Ya Allah. We're seeking it all the time. It's just part of how we deal with the world, Ya Allah. But in this moment, on this day, we are remembering that all of that khair, all of that good is in your hand, Ya Allah. So we move beyond all of the gifts to return to you, the giver, Ya Allah. Ya Kareem, Ya Wahhab, the generous bestower of us upon all existence and all the blessings of existence. So we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for creating us, for sustaining us till this day. We ask that you make us people that remember these truths as we go about in the week ahead, so that we may be guided, and we may seek the good wherever you have decreed it for us to be. Ya Arhamar Rahimin, Astaghfirullah, Astaghfirullah, Astaghfirullah. Subhanak inni kuntu minadh-dhalimin. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursalin.